Hallo met een nieuwe stream. Ik werd niet een te lange stream zijn, dat kan ik je zeggen. Maar, het wordt gewoon een goede stream.
Need to TP ahead. Teams already establishing themselves on height are going to shut them down if they don't make it the front side soon.
Harris has lost his team, now left alone. Is going to recuperate what he can, but with the Oni mask coming through, 30 HP, it's going to be a difficult one to come out from. Malabuka, Ping, and Walks are going to get the triple Oni mask ahead of zone. Good job playing into the zone there. You tank a bit, but it's what it takes to get a front-end position. Now it's all about claiming space, blocking off the others. And what a surprise! It's Queasy, it's Merstash, it's Swizzy once again claiming the high ground.
They would have liked a little bit more match, though. These wood builds are bound to be chopped out by teams sitting in the mid-ground layers. Atris, though, just trying to remain as hidden as possible. Doesn't want anyone to recognize him. Malabuka, big tag from behind. Not enough, though, to even draw his shields. Pixie now gonna keep trying to keep his intention towards Hive. Merstash even gonna play a little bit of disruption factor here, make them reconsider if they actually want to have those floors open above them. And Merstash tagging teams as they continue to try to move frontwards.
You called it out. It's a red flag. Only wood on the high ground. It's free pickings for the opposing trio, saying these guys must not have a lot of mats. We could maybe even contest it, and that's exactly what Mr. Savage, Mongol, and Panzer had in mind. With 47 builds, a bit more hard mats, they might just be able to successfully overthrow this.
Savage won a game yesterday. Savage trying to win another. Though, what a massive shot. That refresh gonna buy him a little bit more time onto the likes of Chicho. But still, they have to tank a little bit of storm here. They know they can't be the first ones in, but that pull back saving them.
Huge, as they now don't have to continue with the rotation, just wait and go on backwards. Merstash, though, popping his minis to just recuperate that little bit of shield back, as now the aggression is going to go out to Marius. They connect one shot, not enough to get the knock, though. Good news is Merstash does have that medallion, but high ground, it's getting contested once again.
And Savage, he doesn't have the HP to continue the fight. He's been knocked. Pixovsky's team looking to clean up the pieces. And Savage knows he just lost Mongrel. He's going to be forced to drop here instead. Nam's going to catch him on that rotation out. Spotted the fact that it's a solo. Malabuka, Ping, and Walks, though, still a fully intact trio. Decent amount of mats, and they continue to control the low ground.
Look above, though. It's Cammy, it's Seti, it's Harry, all from yesterday getting annihilated to now the comeback in day 2. Everything's on the line for them after Merstash goes down. Noms, Gripey doing what they can to hold low, but there's still more players down below.
There's Malabuka, Ping, and Walks just on the other side of these walls. That was who their real contenders were going to be for this low ground all along. You can hear the feet stomping all around. Malabuka might have the angle, but Eclipse looking to get involved.
That's a solo looking in for a battle of 2 duos and a trio. Malabuka trying to find another angle to stay ahead. He needs to find an opening onto Eclipse here. They need to get him out of the match. The shots come through. Trying to play a bit defensive, but Walks is going to hit a massive one onto Noms, taking him out. Eclipse still is up. They're stuck in the dirt now. They have to find a way up, but on top of them, it's going to be Cammy, it's going to be Seti, it's going to be Harry just waiting for them.
And this is huge, though. Malabuka, Walks, and Ping. They've still got to deal with the likes of Bolin dropping underneath. Ari gonna open things up here. Massive engage. This is so favorable. This is the massive game that we were expecting to see yesterday, and now Ari trying to bring it to life.
Got the water sprites, can play this one defensively. Malabuka looking like the last player left in zone. He hears the chug splashes coming through. Looking around, the shot gets connected, and just like that, Hari, Cammy, Seti are gonna be able to close out this 8th match of the day.
Despite how awful things looked at the start of this game 8 here, despite
looking around, the shot gets connected, and just like that, Hari, Cammy, Seti are going to be able to close out this 8th match of the day.
Despite how awful things look looked at the start of this Game 8 here at Takata, Cammy, Seti, and Hari finally rang true and showcase exactly why everybody would have had this team in a more favorable position heading off of day one yesterday. But the recovery tour is alive. I'm not going to say it's well just yet, but it's there. We have signs of life from our Polish team.
It's looking promising from getting annihilated off spawn yesterday to now changing things up a little bit. They're going out of their drop spot with not a lot of loot, but somehow, Taco, somehow, even though they don't have a lot of loot, don't have a good kind of start to their game, they're still able to close it out and get that victory royale, which is exactly what matters. So Frankie, you gotta let me know if I missed anything.
I think you've just about covered it. And a fantastic commentary from you guys, and congratulations to Cami, Seti and Shari. I've always called them, since joining this desk, the day 2 team. And yes, we don't have the 1.5 times multiplier, but they're still showing up and showing what they can do on day 2. But interestingly, as Takata just said, these guys, they had to leave Lost Lake early. We thought that was probably the last we'd seen of them, and yet there they were in the endgame 11, taking it by force.
Absolutely taking it by force. A different type though, right, than what we've seen from them maybe in the past. I will say it's nice to see them finally announce themselves to the lobby, to the region here in FNCS with this game. Hari, again, showcasing why they wanted to pick this guy up. The talent showing us some nice little peaks, some edits, you know, good movement there, especially at the end there. You see the invis, nice little swing to the right. Labuka can't do nothing about it. Yeah, a good win, Mini. I guess it's just good to finally see them do something in the lobby, really.
I'd almost forgot that they were here because they just had so much troubles off spawn. They just didn't announce themselves in the end game whatsoever. It's nice to get a reminder as to how good this team are, how good they can be. As you mentioned, Hari there in the end there with the most amount of eliminations in that team. Could this be the catalyst now? Could this be the moment where they can kind of pick things up? I really hope so. I think, you know, where we may have thought they were going to be at the beginning of the weekend is well out of sight now, but they can make something of this. They can try and make a decent performance after this weekend.
Frankie said they are the day 2 team.
Day 2 team.
Called it. So I'm waiting now.
Welcome to the Major 1 finals, Cami, Seti and Hari. We'll be talking about them and plenty more of our brilliant trios after this break.
Over le désir de comment aller à bro. It's just so far extended this blacklist and give money to what that's supposed to be that. Reward change. Nee, dus Kids, gold, something. Family Perverts. No. Family perverts.
Welcome back to the Major 1 finals of FNCS Europe. I'm Frankie, I'm joined by Mini Miner and Leven2K, and I feel so ready to crown our first champion of Chapter 6, but we've got a little way to go before then. So why don't we break down what happened in game number 8, boys? We're looking at the standings and seeing how they've impacted things. Because Cami, Seti and Cherry, they might have just taken the Victory Royale, but we won't see them on page number 1, Mini, because they didn't have the best start on day 1 of the finals.
No, that's definitely not the case at all. They didn't have a very good start at all. 19th place for this team. Really, really nice for them. Boosting their way up. This is exactly what we know that they can do. Nice victory round from them. That was probably the most messy game we've seen in terms of high ground takes. So they were able to sort of take advantage of that really well. But I'm just looking at this sort of top 5 right now. Look at how close it is. Vico, Veno, Flixie went down very early there. 18th place. So they didn't get any placement points there. And that's why their points haven't gone up too much. But look at that ping. Wox, Malabuka closing in really, really closely right now. And it's all down to this game right here, Leven. Really, really nicely played. A second place, of course, in the end. And I mean, wow, this is exactly what I expected from this team. And I'm really glad that they're starting day 2 with a plum right now.
The standings are so volatile, but it's good to see these guys rising. Because when I was doing my VOD reviewing and research going into this final, the one thing I loved about this team is that they very much remind me of like Malabuka and Mustache way back in the day in duos, where like you just don't want to be on the same layer as these guys in mid game or in end game, sorry, right? Like they're just a nightmare to play against, and you give them the opportunity, they are gonna make your game, make your life so difficult. And again, if they can keep playing like keep putting them in those situations in the end game, they're gonna cause havoc in this lobby, and they're gonna keep rising in those standings and give Veno, Vico, Flixie a good run for their money.
And just in a reminder, if you missed yesterday's pre-show, Mini Miner actually predicted Malabuka's trio to take the Active Champions, whereas Leven put them as the runner-up because Leven actually put Vico, Veno and Flixie. So the two of you are looking like your competition is going to be the fiercest of all. These trios are representing you. Your reputations are on the line. Let's talk about the mid-game of the game that we just saw, because there was a lot of focus on the island this time. We had 3 parties going at it. One of them, even more than that. But as you can see, though, Leven, in fact, you know what? Don't just see. Tell me what happened.
Yeah, so look at already, this is very different to what we were seeing on the island the first day, right? And it's something that I was waiting to see if it would happen, because for any of our NA enjoyers watching the show right now, you would have noticed that there were a couple games on NA that didn't look like this, right? Where you have a lot more teams on the island, different teams claiming certain islands. And in this game, there was about 4 or 5 different teams that were up here at some point. iDrop's team eventually go up here, they end up getting a big beam onto Veno, they take him down, they push Veno, Vico, Flixie, take them out of the game, but they're still low on Surge. Nefrizzi's trio was like, I don't want any problems in this, like there's way too many people up here, this is not what we signed up for. They dropped down. Queasy, Mustache and Swizzy though waited for the perfect timing. They waited, they knew if they played a long game, they were gonna win it out. And I think Mini now, we're gonna see the island look like that in a lot more of these games, especially on some of those northern poles. I think we're gonna see 4 or 5 different teams up there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's going to be less of that sort of path to victory now that more teams are going up there. We saw it with Queasy, as you mentioned. They, of course, ended up being the team that managed to claim the island. But what happened when they took high? They didn't have the materials to hold on to because they were battling it out with all the other teams that were up there. So now, once that was the island that was the sort of easy win condition for these teams, get up there, make sure you save all those materials. Now you have to fight for that position. And that, of course, expends so much of that material and that ammo that you were saving from doing it previously. So that's why Queasy's team didn't quite have as good of a day there. But I'm starting to see how this island dynamic changes now throughout the rest of the day.
Leven, what does this mean for Veno, Vico and Flixie's game plan? Because we saw them rotate early. They didn't go for the medallion that went to Mustache in the end. I'm just wondering, given that it was such a key part of their game plan in day 1, do you think that's going to change today?
No, I think they just need to be a bit more aware and play the long game a bit and realize that realistically they can handle anyone in a fight. They just can't give early damage away like they did to iDrop's trio.
All right, well, Everything's to play for the Acts of Champions, but also the island itself. So let's head into game number 9 and let the showdown begin.
Thank you, Frankie. So many things to keep in mind. Island battles, off-spawn engagements, continuing forwards. I mean, we had Cami, Seti, and Harry who came out, I mean, basically in shambles from their drop spot and ended up winning the whole match. So going into game 9, Taco, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, it's just really impressive how teams are able to essentially find themselves or put themselves into those winning positions despite what might look like a relatively scuffed early game. So Shogun's Arena, though, is going to be the real key factor here, I think, for me, as far as our top 5 teams are concerned. And we'll get into the action now with game 9.
Okay.
Ini, Skavi, and Haris have had a bit of trouble at Shogun's Arena. The good news is, in the last match, they were able to come out on top. Looking at the bus path, too, it is going to be a quick battle, having the bus landing so close. But for Lost Lake, we'll have to see what does end up happening. If you're Cami, if you're Seti, if you're Harry here, I'm trying to think, you know, what can you possibly change? They're just such in a difficult position with the third parties that come through, that even coming from that victory royale, knowing how to, you know, successfully play these last matches of day 2, it's a tough one.
Seaport City and Lost Lake are just 2 central locations on the map where seeing any form of success, considering the way that the competitive meta has essentially extended towards fighting on the outskirts of the map being the priority, but fights are still going to have to take place here. Merstash wins the drop, though. Big pump to start things off.
Another pump coming through from Queasy as well. That's 2 on the board already. 1 left to finish it off, but Merstash has been eliminated. The good news is that Swizzy's not going to miss that shot. And just like that, before you can even look at your surroundings, the early game engagement is going to go in favor to Queasy and Co. But for Cami, Seti, and Hari coming from the victory royale, it would be devastating if they get eliminated so early on in the next match, as Akira and his trio are doing what they can to hold their ground.
But if they get third-partied here yet again super early on, I love the fact that we saw them in the last match just full-on disengaged. Don't even bother trying to extend this fight. Podesai, though, he's got a force to be reckoned with here, but doesn't stand a chance up against Ari. He's going to bring him down. Cami, though, from behind Akira with a surprise factor, and Ari now left and defend just barely a sliver HP.
The biggest issue, there's a whole other trio coming in to join the party, even though Akira Exceeds Podesai are going back-to-back with Cami, Seti, Hari. Now with a whole other trio looking to finish it up. This is just a repeat of what we saw yesterday.
This is a tragedy as well for both France and Poland. When you really boil it all down here, Takata, it's only Ari that is left to survive from that initial engagement, and he's gonna have to sit tight for a while because it really does seem as though Bithro's team is fully aware there's still 1 member straggling around here, and they want to find him.
Yeah, Brannick, Kaiser's, Dynus continuing with that. You saw how quickly they were able to get from their drop spot to the third party. I mean, that was the pro of at Seaport City, how fast Merstash and his trio were able to kind of clean up that fight before any potential third parties could come through. But for Pingwalks and Malabuka, not only feeling confident going into this match with their place on the leaderboard, but also having 3 elims off the rip to back it up. How did that even happen?
Volko, it's going to be the starting point here with a Pierre Wax. Big cleanup, and he just continues it as well, finding that secondary elimination onto Vostroki. Contesting Malabuka's team at Night Shift Forest is definitely a bold decision. Maybe Volko's team was hoping to try and catch them a little bit more off guard here, but Wax and Ping, when it comes to clutch scenarios, especially for Malabuka's team, they've been delivering for the most part.
Yes, they have, and I mean, just gave them some free Surge 9, so we'll see if they continue doing that in the last few matches. I drop Sky and Scroll are in a bit of hustle themselves. Starkiss and Frizzy on the defensive inside the box. I drop now has to make the decision
And
as an aggressive trio. Are they gonna just look for
actor.
separate angles to try and find an opening? Are they gonna go for a fully aggressive play? Normally, when you have potential third parties like Vanya and the surrounding areas, you want to just take these soft fights. You don't want to fully go on in, because even if you end up winning the fight, if you lose one of your trio and the third party comes through, it's just not going to end well.
Director team. Direction.
So I think damage is what they're looking for.
It's just such a quick extension, though, from iDrop's team. So soon, aggressing southern portion at Hopeful Heights. It's the fact that they decided to strike before Vanya's team has actually gotten into position.
Oké, we zijn al 20 minuutjes live.
Vanya, Pixie, Thaddeus, they were typically the ones engaging to start things off with the teams at Hopeful Heights. But now iDrop caught off guard entirely. Monet was just stealthy as ever, waiting on that turtle for him to rotate through.
Gotta be careful now, as eyes are on them. iDrop having gotten eliminated leaves Sky and Scroll in a bit more of a panic here, but the good news is, I was gonna say good news, I mean there's not much, honestly. They're in the middle of a sandwich that is not gonna be easy to get out of.
Not the only ones trying to escape. Veno, Flixie, Vika, they've got Robin in their sights yet again. They want to be the ultimate janitors here at Lost Lake. One elimination already underneath Vika's belt. And even though Flixie and Veno still like a chance to cover some shields here, Hijo just immediately jumped the moment he was trying to break away. Just separated for a second too long from his team. And Vico, certainly not someone to get caught out with.
Dev.
Already one Elam on the board now, just kind of looking around to see if there's an opening for more, but Vico, Veno, Flixie, not good for now. As we look back over to Shogun, Solitude, Shap, Noah, and Yanis once again trying to fight for their tags. They were doing it all throughout yesterday on the southern side of the map here, trying to hold any trio they could from rotating back on north if the zone was pulling towards them. As now it is going to be Ju up above, trying to withstand the pressure.
We saw Ju, Shark, and Z Andy. They're very familiar with trying to pressure teams at Shogun Solitude. They have their extension from the Big Bed Tunnel, but Shark, he recognized the fact Z Andy's gone down. He's got to close in. He doesn't want to allow Janice the time to actually recover. Just trying to scatter his way into the box, but now Shark going to be forced to disengage. He's got to break out of here. He knows Ju is low, and Shark's getting tagged up along the way.
Finds another player. Flying in. Does he know? It's what's on his... anything aggressive.
Chap, get a review of what went wrong for Z Andy. Just trapped and nowhere left to run. But the real interesting part here, Takada, is the fact that one of our original teams from Shoguns is actually making their way back in, UX team. And considering their initial tussle with the Teenies, it's surprising that they would still want to revisit.
Farm picks Demas, though. We saw them pop off in game one of the day. Now we are in the third, which is ninth match, as the pre-edits are going to come through, continuing with their aggression. I'm hoping the confidence stays there no matter what happens, as they didn't fully commit to it, but they definitely wanted something. They saw other players kind of coming in from the back end, and now they're thinking, oh, this might be a little too risky for comfort. But they're going to stay around and see if there's any openings.
The big thing, though, that might just favor Pix's team, considering how aggressive we've seen them naturally be throughout the course of this Major 1 finals. It's been how they've carved their name into the leaderboard in the first place. So this might actually be an entire environment they could thrive in. They've got to just be careful, though, wary of not over-peaking, essentially. I do like that they are giving some grace period against Group A's team, because they know Pink, Tino, they're all kind of lurking around as well.
They got 22nd in the last match, so it would be quite tragic if they end up going down again in kind of the mid game as they look for those fighting tags. So it might just cause them to play a little safer, but we know that this trio likes playing aggressive. They're good at it. And they've shown that they can stand against some of the veterans in the lobby, as Pink, Chino, and Nebs are going to want to join as well. Pix gets a nice little trade-off, as I think this is all they're looking for. They can't go for a full commit here. It's more just trying to maybe even get a knock, just damage. The shots come through. They hear the shotguns. A potential opening now onto Rezoid.
This is getting so messy so fast, and Pig, Storm, Demas, they've used up the bulk of their material. Pump Power, not exactly an optimal spot for refarming when there's this many teams surrounding you as well. All the while, Teeny over by Night Shift Forest now. HRSV,
Wat
they've
gebeurt er?
tangled themselves with Chap and Noah Riley, but Teeny, waiting for the right-hand peek, might have an opening, instead loses his shields.
Uh-oh. Good news
Put
is
some
more than enough
props in
heals.
there,
Bad
put
news,
some
Chap is not going to let him
position.
pop them.
And
Pressure
so
comes
loud.
through. There's a whole other duo, it seems, or even trio coming in from the storm as well, so it's only a matter of time. Hopefully Haris is able to kind of keep his awareness on check, look around, and spot that trio once they get closer. But the Oni masks seem to be coming through here, and it looks like they're going to try and make an escape as Teeny tried to cut him off.
There's just way too many opponents, teams, that they'd rather hold on the edge instead. Ju was successful in bringing back Z-Andy with the reboot, but now these teams that are going to be so late upon making their interest his own, Teeny recognizes it immediately. This is a handicap player, essentially, because Jude doesn't have his teammates close by to try and back him up just yet, and they don't necessarily have the loot either to take that fight.
And finally, it looks like the tussle at Pump Power is coming to an end, potentially. But there's some new trios kind of joining the party as they hear their shots. You can see for yourself at the bottom right on the mini-map. More engagements happening in the surrounding area, once again in Storm. As now Darm, Pix, and Demas have to kind of decide, are they going to go towards those shots? Are they going to use it in an opening? Or are they just going to try and go around and safely make it to zone?
All of these teams just held each other for so long here at Pump Power, and no one was really seeming to budge. But Teeny, he's trying to get this battle to happen here. Does manage to get the elimination onto Shark finally, but it comes at a steep price. Janice and Noah Riley on the other side, they picked off Skvi, and now Teeny finds himself in a position where if he exposes himself too soon, he'll get ripped apart.
Yeah, Chap continuing to apply pressure from above. He knows Haris is alone in this box. He has his teammates by him. He just can't get caught off guard. He can't get boxed up himself. As he continues to fight a shot onto Haris, Yanis got cracked. Noah, incredibly low as well, forced to pop some heals, as now they're going to be switching to the defensive. As Team's going to take this chance to kind of run away. And once again, trying to recuperate this match.
Department assistant.
He's got the exact same idea. He's just got to sit tight, especially when you know that there is a trio so close nearby. But despite the successive measures that Yanis, Jeff, and Noah Riley have had in terms of finding the one-off elimination or two, it hasn't necessarily given them a spot where they can try and go for that winning moment. That's what teams really need to try and transition a lot of these mid-game engagements towards, those end-game winning moments. And I think being able to be healthy enough to actually challenge the teams that are going for Shogun's Arena consistently is a big element to that.
Yeah, yesterday we saw how powerful the players that ended up securing Shogun's Arena were. I mean, how well they were placing from it. And this isn't like yesterday. They don't have another 6 matches to play tomorrow. These are the last matches of the EU FNCS Major Finals for Major 1. We are in game 9 out of 12. So, I mean, the clock's ticking for these players, and some of them need bigger matches than others. But as we look back over to Shogun's Arena, we have Merstash, Queasy, and Swizzy. This time around, without pressure from another trio.
Nowhere near as many visitors as match 8, but that could be a bad thing here for Swizzy. He's got to be real careful with who he's trying to pick his battles with. It's tough because sometimes you think you'll have the overall advantage just being so high up on Shogun's Arena, but when you start to actually take a peek off those edges, other teams in their surge bases, like what Flixie's attempting to do, they're gonna keep good tabs on you.
Yeah, they got that one elimination earlier on in this match and haven't chosen to continue kind of fighting as much. I mean, we saw in terms of their stats, I think they were at the most damage with shotguns compared to AR in the early to mid game, so they're a lot more comfortable with those close range engagements in terms of tags, but it worked out quite well for them in the first match today. Was game 7, where they got to the end game without too many eliminations and were able to just absolutely frag out once they had that end game under control. So looking to have kind of a repeat of that this time around for another big game.
Glimpse at that top 5 leaderboard though. Only 1 point separating first and second place. Vico, Veno, and Flixie know that they cannot afford to take another early exit from this lobby. They don't want to allow the opportunity for Ping, Wax, and Malabuka to actually try and leapfrog over them. The longer you can stay in the driver's seat as far as that first place position is concerned, the better off your odds are going to be once we actually draw towards those 11th and 12th lobbies here today, Takata. But right now, HRSTDSP, they're just hoping for any sort of combat situation because they need a refresh. They need it desperately. They might have bandages to work their way into zone, but they can tell Chapno, Riley, and Yanis, they've sniffed out this stealth maneuver.
Yeah, they've got the fishing rods, trying to just get what they can, and Tini, Haris, Skavit looking for a 3-2-1. The good news is both trios have a good amount of damage. Bad news is Tini cannot make a single footstep here, as it will be seen. So all they got to do is kind of hold on to the patience, wait for Noah, Yanis, and Chap to disengage, and just like that, go for the 3-2-1. Have they secured the knock onto Yanis? Yes, they have. The patience paid off, as now the aggression is going to come through that opening to play extra aggro, as Tini looks for a wall, get right on in to the knocked player Yanis to recuperate that loot. The question is now, do they continue forward as Chap hits a huge shot, causing them to back up now? If Chap's able to pick one off here, this would be massive for the trio.
But all of those fish that Chap and O'Reilly Yanis just spent time acquiring, now having already been squeezed away from them essentially, HRSTDSP finding that elimination onto Yanis is a big opener for their conversation as far as game 9 is concerned, because they definitely are going to need the surge with the way they've been playing the fringe for so long, but it's still not going to be easy. Chap and O'Reilly though, definitely not happy.
Mongrel, Mr. Savage Panzer though, looking like they might even want to fight for something here. Panzer got up close and personal. One of the Elim damage leaders going into today as they continue to kind of find any opening. It's Uppel, it's Fincheck on the defensive, but so far with the regroup coming through and the zone that they just pulled, I don't think they want to get too aggressive here, as they're almost in prime positioning, not counting the Rift Island.
That's the main issue, is that Shogun's Arena being directly above where the zone is pulled in their current position. Sure, Savage managed to find a good knock onto Buick, but now he's got to deal with the team way up on the high ground that can just continuously look down on him and spray him out. Should he keep trying to fight?
Yeah, this is going to be very big for Queasy, Swissy, and Merstash, assuming that they're still up there. But for Veno, he's been taken out completely. Vico, Flixie left as a duo as Vico, just 1 HP, gets knocked as well. One of our top competitors to take home the trophy today of Major 1. Now looking more grim.
2 of our teams in the top 5 though, Pix, Demus, and Darm, they're sitting in 4th place position. They know that they are looking at eliminating the #1 leaders in this lobby, but Flixie will manage to bring Vico back with a revive. They've at least been able to create enough space to force Demus, Pix, and Darm to come to a halt. Still, they are looking incredibly low here as far as everything else you would desire to try and make their way through this endgame. And they know they've just got to get a move on. Even as a duo, they can still try to hold somewhat of a mid to low ground position. try and get some of those extra placements going.
What's good though is due to them pulling the zone here. I mean, even if you're Pix, Demus, and Darm, it might even be beneficial to build up 1 or 2 boxes so you have sight of all these players rotating in. But I mean, like you said, with the Rift Island right above them, it just makes this whole situation that much more complicated. But for Veno, well, Vico and Flixie, after Veno got eliminated, they are in a good position to take a lot of shots. So even though they're a duo, they should have a simple enough time getting enough damage as Swizzy's trying to do what he can to stop people from getting close to them.
Swizzy, though, working off of that Invis medallion. He's got the ultimate peekaboo in store for teams that sit directly underneath, but it's more so the fact that we are witnessing Queasy about to enter 8th zone here soon enough, Takata, and practically cap mats on everyone. And the #1 thing that the analysts have already addressed even is if you give Queasy cap mats heading into your end game, everyone else in the lobby is about to have a real bad time with the way these guys look to control height.
And last time, nailed every single end game zone, all the moving zones, and looking at how this zone is pulling out. I mean, if it pulls to the west